So I'm back here today with Mariano Díaz-Campos. So I've interviewed him before, and I will link that in the description of the video because I think it's a really interesting video with a lot of insight in the history of tango. And that is certainly because Mariano has a really interesting, I would say, unique background. So he's originally like ethnically an Argentinian, so to say, because his parents are from Argentina and they fled Argentina during the last dictatorship. But he also grew up in the Netherlands, so he's also kind of not an Argentinian. He's just a Dutch person as well. So it's a very interesting background. And the reason why I'm saying that is not just because this migration story is really interesting, but I'm also saying it because I think Mariano has a kind of perspective on things, Argentina and tango. Um, like he can take a bit more distance from full Argentines, so to say. So I think he can look at things in a really unique and different way than, for example, someone like me who's totally not Argentinian, or those who grew up in Argentina. And it's a really interesting background, like I say. Um, so I just want to talk about something that has to do with history today. That's what I wanted to say, Mariano. So you're also trained as a journalist.
Yeah,
So you also really enjoy investigating things, and you also really
yeah,
enjoy history.
a lot, yes.
So
Yeah.
what I would like to talk about today is an interesting phenomenon. Is how tango went from being something popular in Argentina, so of the people, so culturally,
Hmm.
yes, also um, associated with, for example, the lower classes or the workers' classes or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and how it kind of disappeared in this sense. So,
Hmm.
can you maybe introduce this topic for us?
Yes, we associate tango with the golden era, which is started around 1935 and ended around 1955, which is a very special era because of the orchestras, but also the dance changed a little bit. So in my case, my family, my grandfather, who had a milonga in his hometown, this is called Tapalqué, which is in the province of Buenos Aires. You can imagine you have the capital city of the nation. This is Buenos Aires, Capital Federal, the federal capital. And then around this federal capital, this city, the governmental city, you have the province of Buenos Aires with the same name. They have two political entities, and which is very important to know that this province is the biggest province, one of the biggest province, and certainly the most populated province of Argentina. And my grandfather lived, the family of my grandfather lived in Tapalqué, which is more in the south of the capital city of Argentina, and it's like 4 hours with a bus to come there. In the old days, there were, I think, also a railway station, and he organized uh, every weekend milongas, and not only milongas with tango, but with also folklore and even Spanish dances, Spanish music, because my grandfather is descendant from Galicia, and I have also roots in the Basque countries. His grandfather, I think, was he immigrated before the World War. I think the beginning of the 20th century to Argentina from Spain, and married a local criolla Argentinian lady, which was she was also not from Europe, but originally one of the first colonizers of the country, because she was an ex-slave a daughter of an ex-slave. So I have some Afro-Argentinian descendants background. It's very important to know that somebody who came from Europe married somebody from Argentina. And of course, he grew up as a young kid, my grandfather, with the popular culture of tango, which in the 30s was on the radio, in the cinema. You had many famous actresses who sang tango on the radio, Libertad Lamarque, Tita Merelo. So this environment is very special for my grandfather. So as the last interview, I said also that my grand aunt, I think it's called, the sister of my grandfather, I think her name was Paula, had a milonga in Constitucion neighborhood in the capital city. So she really lived in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires had a sort of magnet influence to all people from the provinces, because it's an old tale, old legend. If you go to the city, you can be famous, you can be rich, you can have a better life than this miserable poverty you have in a village somewhere in the Pampas, because Tapaque is in the middle of the Pampas. And if I could recall how it was living there, is that if you have houses when you want to go to the bathroom, you had to go out of the house and do it in a hole somewhere. Now it's completely different. It's now a very prosperous village, but I can imagine that before World War, or even before the First World War, you had dead cases in the villages. So the city attracted a lot of people. So what I want to say is how something very strange, like a milonga in a village, and every village had tango venues, because it was so popular. It was the only thing you heard. You didn't have influences of another culture at that moment, and everything came from Buenos Aires and Montevideo, of course. So all the people danced tango, especially after the start of the golden era and the famous orchestras, because imagine you had a lot of very famous orchestras, let's say 10 or 20 very good orchestras, among them D'Arienzo and Di Sarli and Miguel Caló, and a little bit later on Pugliese. But you had also a lot of amateurs putting together a cover band of mostly D'Arienzo, but also from cover bands of the music of Canaro or Vercedo. So let's say you had 200, 300 maybe professional orchestras, and then you had a lot of others amateurs making music and going from venue, from birthday parties, the 15th, when a young woman becomes 15, or maybe a wedding, or a party of a football club, I don't know. So when in that time almost every youngster danced tango or made tango music, you could easily go towards the city of Buenos Aires and ask somebody on the street, do you dance tango? And it doesn't matter which profession he had, he would say, yes, I dance tango. So at that time, in the golden era, I can say that it's maybe one of the rare moments that almost every class the lower class, middle class, and even the youngsters of the higher class danced tango. Before that, there were some people of the lower and higher middle class who danced tango, but it was mostly the lower class who danced tango. Let's say around 2010, 2020, during the World War, then the beginning of the 30s, it started a little bit to shift a little bit. So at that moment, you didn't have a lot of influence of let's say, culture from outside. Maybe a Jewish Yiddish violin player introduced his talent in a tango orchestra, or maybe something else, like somebody who came from Europe and could play piano. But then they played in this matrix of the tango culture. What happened next is very strange, and this is many of my sources have conflicted ideas about that. When the 50s started, some of my sources say there was a lot, sort of waning. I hope it's a good word, a waning, a disappearing form of tango, and it was not really the era of rock and roll at that moment, the beginning of the 50s. It came especially from 1956 with a movie called, I think, Rock Around the Clock, from Billy Haley and the Comets. It was not from him, but he was performing there is rock and roll music, and everything shifted. And many of my sources say it was not in 1956, but a year before. But what happened in 1955 is that there was a coup against a government of Peron, and because he had singers like Hugo de Carril and other people who sang for the party of Juan Domingo Perón, tango got associated with politics. I think it's part of why the tango disappeared in general culture, but not fully the reason why it went like that.
So
I think
you were talking about the early 50s already.
Yeah.
So what happened there? Because there was not there was still the Perón government.
No, yeah, there was the government of the Perón had a social welfare state. So you had strong unions, and like this amateur orchestras. They made music at places where the union came together, or union members, when they have their own societies, because they have their own parties, their own birthday, their own wedding, and and these unions had sometimes these places where you had a stage or a place where you could dance, but also in the sports environment, many clubs had their let's say basketball halls where you could dance tango. I recall some of my sources say in Avellaneda by Racing Club, but in other clubs too, Atlanta, which is now I think in Division B, second division, but it was a big club in those days, and many other clubs. The unions did something with tango or in their places, you have to think about the unions that with Peron, they got a little bit emancipated, this union movement. They had also, like they have still now, places where laborers could go on vacation in Cordoba or even around Buenos Aires with a swimming pool, and you can barbecue there. So when you're a member of this union, you could sign up. Well, I want to go on vacation at this time, and then you could go this little house, and I don't know if you had to pay a little fee or little something, but then you came together with your comrades, your compañeros, and then have your barbecue and be with your family there, and sometimes they had a stage or a party or a wedding, and people did. It was a society with a lot of social groups, clubs, a society where you could be a member of, and also when you were a member of a club. So that's very special to have that in those times. One of my sources say that some of the orchestras were subsidized by the state. I don't know, I'm not sure of that because I couldn't get it confirmed. So after the coup, it was more like being guilty of an association with the old government, the ancien regime. So, but something else started also, and that's that after the coup, you have a curfew, and many clubs decided not to put tango anymore because it's also a gathering of a group of people, but also maybe it's like a sort of self censorship in a sort of way. And then came this rock and roll craziness where people started to or youngsters started to identify them with a new culture, a foreign culture. There's many reasons. One of my sources say like the printing of discs. Yes, you had a certain amount of material to print disc, and when you print a disc, you have a contract to print a certain album from a tango orchestra, and then print it a lot of times. Let's say 10,000 copies of one orchestra, or 5,000 copies of one orchestra. Okay, but if you used all your material and you notice that there is something else in fashion, rock and roll or other music, it takes a lot of time and cost to wait until all the material is used up and use the new material to do this printing. So I think producers decided to skip some of the printing of some tango orchestras and print new music. And I read some comment of Miguel Priano, that was, I think, a violinist of Quarteto Cedrón, and he said, I think that the orchestra of Domingo Federico had like more than 122, maybe 192 songs recorded, but only a fraction was printed, and the rest was lost forever. Those recordings on tape. It's the first thing you record when the orchestra, and later on it gets printed. Those tapes are lost forever because in the middle of the producing, the producer started to print those discs of the new music. It's not only that which changed the culture, because if you look to folklore music and folklore dance, people in the provinces kept on dancing their dances. And that's very important to know. They kept on dancing their dances. The question is, how does it come that this new cultural divide, cultural separation of your roots, it was so strong in Buenos Aires and Montevideo, in the big cities, let's say. It's an urban folklore. It's urban dance and urban music. And I think maybe because when you're living in a city, information comes quicker to you, and your social gathering are more dynamic when you're young and you're living in the city, that something new, which is also always interesting for young dancers, is more interesting than doing something which maybe a generation before you danced or did. And many people of the generation before you will be maybe 31, 32, 33 years old, sometimes already married, mostly, and having kids and not going out anymore. So the social aspects, the dynamic changes every 6-7 years. It's like I'm Generation X, after me is the millennials, and after that Generation Z, and so on. And I noticed that I don't like the music of Generation Z. So to come back towards my family in Villa Fiorito, is when my mother moved as 13 years old to Villa Fiorito, to come to live at the home of her older brother, which was deceased 3 weeks ago. Tio Carlos. He was one of the oldest brother, maybe the oldest brother of a family of 9, and my mother was one of the youngest. She moved to Villa Fiorito because my grandmother couldn't provide her a good home in Tapaqué because she was very poor. So my mother came to Buenos Aires and started to work sewing clothes in place with more girls sewing. I think it was dresses for a company. She was certainly under 16 before when she started working. My father also. My father came from Chile, and as like I said, after the World War, people think that many people from Europe immigrated to Argentina because of being scared of a new war with the Soviet Union, or came from those places, and maybe they thought Argentina would be a safer place, which I think it is. But many people from the provinces, but also from Paraguay, Bolivia, even from Uruguay, Chile, like my parents, like my father's parents, they came to Argentina because in the 50s and certainly in the beginning of 60s, there was a big industry in Argentina, and it attracted a lot of people from all over the place in the south of the continent. So the thing is that when my mother came to Villa Frito, she danced tango when she lived in this village Tapalqué with her brother and with my grandfather. Then my grandfather died very, very early. She was, I think, 13 or 12. And this knowledge of tango, she took her with her. And then she came to the big city and everything was different there.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, because I think she came around 1965, 1966. And this rock and roll craze, which started in 1956, so like 10 years earlier, was still going on, was still big, big, big. When you hear the first songs of the Beatles, you could easily dance rock and roll on it. And they danced. This end of the 60s era pop music was not popular yet in the societies of the youngsters in this urban place and the urban environment. In the case of my father, who came from Chile, he didn't know tango, but he came in an environment where there were people from the provinces, and he started to dance chamamé, especially chamamé, which is a social dance, embraced, abrazado, and they had a ronda, the same ronda of the tango, walking anti-clockwise. So, but because of this new music craze, pop music craze, rock and roll, my parents started to dance rock and roll. And they even won a championship of the neighborhood. So I was a very, very strong influence in this neighborhood, talking about Villa Fiorito. Then I'm going to skip now to when I came for the first time into Villa Fiorito after we could come back to Argentina after the dictatorship. So when I first started to come to Argentina after, I think, 10 years of banishment, because we were banished from the Argentinian society. When I came there, first, my family started to invite my sister to go to this rock and roll discotheques. Now, that is, I'm talking about 1987, 1988, beginning of the 90s. I was completely crazy for Nirvana, or I grew up with Talking Heads and U2. And then I came to Villa Fiorito, and it was like I was being thrown back into the history, because I went to clubs and everybody danced cumbia and rock and roll. No techno. Maybe there was techno in the capital city in some clubs. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't go there because all the young people in Villa Fiorito danced rock and roll. And the strange thing is that my nephew and my niece, they love Guns N' Roses. They love metal music and rock nacional very, very much. But when they go dancing, they danced on music of Billie Holiday and the Comets. So they had two loves: the love of rock music or rock nacional, which is Argentinian rock music, or rock and roll for the dancing. So they had a separation of two different, actually, cultural times, because rock and roll is in the 50s and this music they loved is their music they loved at that moment, end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. They love also U2, and well, they are a bit my generation, a bit older. I think Noelia is 54, and Daniel also around 55. I'm 50
Yeah, your
now.
cousins, yeah.
My cousins, yes. So my father loved also the Rolling Stones and also the music of the 60s, which you can't dance on it. You can't dance rock and roll on it. It's more a listening music. So when rock started to change into more listening music with Queen and in the 60s and the 70s, I'm now going back to the 60s. My parents also listened to that music, but when they go out, they dance rock and roll. So I can say that my parents, because my father worked in a factory, they're lower class. When they tell me about they had to, because in the beginning of my of the beginning when the parents of my father moved to Argentina from Chile, they were very poor, and my father told me, yes, I had to eat rice a week long with nothing else than only rice, because that's was the most cheapest. So they had a harsh life. They had a different cultural life than the tangueros of the 40s, the milongueros of the 40s and the 50s. So there was a real break, which came around 55, 1956, especially with the rock and roll craze. So the lower class started to dance rock and roll. So they changed their cultural dances and music from something national, which is tango, to something international. Doing a little bit of looking up all these facts, I also discovered that it was not only Argentina which had that cultural influence, which is, I think it's Afro-American music. I think every country in the Western world had that also. When I read about music from and dances from Spain, the young people, even under Franco, the young people started to dance also rock and roll. But when they had their wedding parties and the other parties, they danced sevillanas with each other. It was not anymore only sevillanas, only Spanish music, only, and every country had that. So for us tango dancers, it's special to recognize that it didn't happen only in Argentina. The most dances and music which survived a little bit this cultural invasion was the music of the provinces, and the urban tango music and tango dances was most vulnerable in this case, because that's the place where information came first. So what happens next? It's not so that tango completely disappeared. It was a niche. So there were places where there were tango. And as I can recall from my mother, when they went for the first time to Argentina to dance tango, there were only 5 places where they could dance tango. So Almagro, Club Almagro, in Villa Urquiza, you had some places, and another place, La Tierrita, which was, I think, in Mataderos. I don't know it enough. But I think there were more places people danced, only we didn't know that. Of my mother didn't know that, because when I go investigate a little bit, there were some places where all the milongueros in the outskirts of Buenos Aires came together at some places which I don't know the names, and danced a little bit tango. But it was more in the perfect view of cultural life. It was not so more important for the young people in Argentina. It's very interesting to know that also there is a divide in between people who dances tango. I'm a dancer, you're a dancer, so we have a little bit this view of the dance culture. There's also a music culture, tango music culture, and people kept on listening music. And of course, sometimes somebody of a young generation get interested in their roots, like I did when I was living in the Netherlands, to know about tango. And it's something very special, because when people then started to dance rock and roll, the lyrics of tango was a bit not, they couldn't associate with the lyrics of tango, because that talks about a complete different world than somebody who dances rock and roll end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s. They had a different view of life than your lyrics you hear in tango, which is more some poetic, but some very, very sad. And rock and roll had more an uplifting vibe, and being a good poet wasn't necessary to make a rock and roll song. And that's one of the main things also which somebody said to me. Tango music, making tango music is very difficult. Even my wife, who played violin in orchestra, said it's very difficult to play tango. And even when you hear amateurs playing tango from paper, and never had classes tango, you can hear that it misses something.
Yeah, something is off. Yeah.
Yeah, something's off. Yes, it's. I'm a dancer. I can't read music, but I learned something from my wife, and then said, "Oh yeah, you're right. There's something off, and I know what this a sort of like tango dancing, a sort of feeling. You miss some feeling in it. Yes, that's important to have. Well, that's the music, but the dance is very difficult. I say to my students, it's incredible you dance tango, because the most difficult dancers exist. A couples dance, You can dance also solo, Balinese thing. That's also
like
difficult.
Yeah, choreographies. Yeah.
It's also difficult.
Yeah.
But this is an improvised couples dance.
Yeah.
With a lot of figures. If you want to, you can also keep it simple. So that's a sort of hiccup for people who are young and they want to learn fast, and you want to learn fast to go out. And why do you want to go out when you're 16? To meet girls. And eventually, after 5 years, you see your partner, you marry, you never go to dances anymore. And that's what happened with tango too. Some of the milongueros said, I stopped dancing because I got kids. I didn't go out, and my wife didn't want me to go out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that before. Yeah.
Yes. It's a pity, but so just to express some little things which is very important, that culture is culture. Right? I once took a rock and roll class in the Netherlands. It was fun. I liked it very much. I went to Argentina. I took a rock and roll class with my nephew and nieces. Complete different approach. Complete different approach. And I asked them, where did you learn that? And he said, here at the corner from my friends. I learned from my friends. And I was thinking, oh, the boys in the tango era, they learned from each other. And my father learned tango dancing from other boys,
Yeah,
his
on the
friends.
corner, yeah. It's kind of
His
the same
friends, the
thing.
corner,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Literally the corner, because he said, this corner, here I learned rock and roll. It was around the corner of the house of my grandparents. Here I learned rock and roll with the transistor radio, which came in fashion end of the 50s, 60s. You could buy little transistor radios. So from the radio program, somebody put rock and roll music live, and then somebody put it, and then the boys started to dance with each other. Incredible.
Yes.
So when my parents started to give classes in the Netherlands, my father couldn't dance tango because it was something cultural of my mother. So he started to take some classes with my mother and with Todaro and Pepito. But he danced chamame, which is the basic chamame is walking in the ronda. And at that time, it was very fashionable when you took classes with Pepito and Todaro and other maestros to do show steps, which is not in the ronda, which breaks. It's more a stage style. But he combined some media lunas and some molinetes and calecitas with his walking. So he said it was walking, and all those 2-meter Dutch people got everything in the way. And people asked, oh, where did you learn to dance tango? He said, no, I don't dance tango, chamame. Chamame. So he incorporated his walking with his tango and completely embraced, because they were not, my parents are not fools when they come to Buenos Aires, and Antonio Todaro had his milonga I think in the neighborhood of Mataderos called La Tierrita, where he sold beef barbecue at the milonga, so you could eat also and dance. Imagine the the smell.
The smoke, yeah.
The smell, pizza, empanadas, fries, and did you smell food while dancing? It's incredible. It's strange times. Still like that in some places. He saw Antonio Todaro dancing tango de salon, embraced, with a head like this. Not like this, but like this. Some tango de salon are like this, the heads, but this time with Todaro was like this. I don't know why. I have to ask somebody. But people don't find it interesting to know how styles were and which neighborhood has its own style. It was like, it's tango. And they thought, let's start this style in Amsterdam. And they started giving classes in tango de salon in Tango School Amsterdam, which my mother and Wouter Brave put together. They made this tango school in Amsterdam in 1986, I think. And they started giving tango salon, and later on they started their Academia de Tango in 1991, I think, in near the Leidseplein, a big square in Amsterdam center. So their focus was, we want to learn people to dance tango de salon. And that's very important for me to know the differences. So in the beginning of the revival, you had actually two separate styles, tango de salon, and let's call it tango fantasia, almost tango scenario. It's not really a scenario, because when I see the dancers dance now tango scenario, it's a lot of acrobacy and jumps and poses, rarely a little bit dance. That's my opinion. So what my father told me is that many cultural things of tango was included in rock and roll, like cabeceo.
Uh-huh.
When you went to a rock and roll venue in the 60s, you just do a cabeceo to a girl and you could dance with them. So when I came there, I was very surprised that every youngster was dancing with a girl. There was nobody sitting doing nothing. Everybody was dancing with each other. There was nobody sitting. I was sitting because I didn't know the cabeceo. So I was sitting, standing, because there was no place to sit. That I found interesting, that those little things survived somewhat. And asking the partner of somebody you want to dance with for permission, that's mostly the male partner. It's a patriarchal culture, but so you ask the boyfriend of a girl, can I dance with your lady? With all respect, con todo respeto. With all respect, could I dance with your lady? And he could say no, he could say yes. And that thing still exists. Some professional tango dancers who dance traditional tango, professionals, when I meet them, we know each other, they do that. They ask me to dance with Cosima. And because Cosima thinks, yeah, you can ask me. That's a little a cultural difference. It's very interesting to know. Some other things very special is that I learned from my father is be always clean, always. Take always a shower before you go dancing. And if you can, take two shirts towards the dance venue. And take and many toilets in milongas in Argentina have perfume and deodorant. Also in the ladies' toilet, and thing to clean up. Very important to be very clean when you dance tango. And always go with good clothing, and not in jeans and stuff like that. Of course, there are exceptions, because when I went to Cochabamba, Practica in the 90s, I think, where Mingo Pugliese and his, I think she's called Esther Pugliese, I don't know, sure, had her Practica, and all other professionals like Naveira, and I don't know, some other professionals too. People came with slippers, with flip-flops to the tango. People from the neighborhood, and they were dancing very good on those flip-flops with sacadas and stuff like that. And that's what a little bit more modern type tango was. That it was a practica, a lot of sacadas, a lot of ganchos, so different than a real authentic milonga like El Beso, or formerly known as Regine, or Porteño y Bailarín, where people went dressed very good, even young people with a nice shirt, shaved and clean. Very important to know about that, and I try to tell people that's what you have to do. You have to be clean. If I go teaching, I always go with a good shirt, tango trousers. It's more my thing because I associated with tango, and my older maestros like Pepito and Antonio, and even my father went always with a suit to give tango classes. So when you go now to the city of Buenos Aires and you ask a waiter if he dances tango, you will hear, no, I can't dance tango. In the 40s, when you went to the city center and you asked somebody, can you dance tango? Or a waiter, yes, probably yes. Because he was young, he wanted to go out, and the urban youth culture was dancing tango. And when I tell people this, I give lectures about the history of tango. So, oh, what a pity, what a pity. But I was in San Telmo 3 years ago and I saw tango. So tango is not away. It's not away, but less than 5% of people of Buenos Aires dance tango. In those days, you can easily reach up until 40, 50%. Easily. 500 orchestras, maybe 600. I don't know. Some I read 500. There I read 600 professional orchestras, and then a lot of amateur orchestras, and a lot of venues, dancing on the street, dancing in the clubs, dancing in cafes, dancing in the afternoon, dancing. Lower class, middle class, the young people of the higher class. By the higher class, you have a class above higher class. They don't dance tango. They never dance tango. Their cultural approach is more Anglo-Saxon, more. Their view are more towards, in those times, towards United Kingdom, because they got rich during the time that they had economic liaisons with the United Kingdom. It's now the United States, but United Kingdom. So that moment is maybe the moment that almost every class went together and danced with each other. A rare moment in Argentinian society. Yes.
But now it's pretty much educated people from the middle class.
Yeah. Yes,
but
because
that's also a difference, like a shift in class.
Yes. So my nephew and my niece, they come from Villa Fiorito. They not come from the favelas. The road Plumerillo is like a border. They are at the good side of the neighborhood, but they are you can say lower middle class, and they came from lower class. So my uncle was a truck driver, and his wife, my aunt, had several jobs, but she was also sewing clothing like my mother in the old days. The thing is, it skipped a generation. The generation of my mother and father, they don't dance tango. Mostly, they don't dance. Most of them, they don't dance. That my parents danced tango, being young in the 60s and the 70s, is only because my mother danced tango when she was young, and she started as a pioneer tango in the Netherlands. That's the only why. So most of my aunts and uncles don't dance tango. My niece, she's 54 and 55, they danced rock and roll. I went out with them. And now they are older, they got interested in tango. Now they go,
okay.
yeah. Now they go, yes. So in this neighborhood and city, Avellaneda and Lanús, in the south of Gran Buenos Aires, so the capital city, there are many little clubs where you can dance tango and where no tourists come. No tourists from Japan, no tourists from Europe, they don't know it. Because when you go to Oi Milonga, I think it's called, website, it's not there, or if it's there, you see, oh, it's like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half going with the train towards the outskirts of this metropole. So you don't go to that. But I would recommend to go, even with an Uber. It's nice to know a place where you don't have any other tourists, only milongueros dancing tango. And they started dancing tango because first the children are grown-ups, and second, they wanted to reconnect with their roots again. And there are many more people from this neighborhood trying to dance tango. And I think the Argentinian professionals who started pioneering again in this neighborhood have to be applauded, because instead of going touring in Europe, they're very good dancers. They are very good dancers. Some danced in big shows and in big milongas performance. Had Ruben and Sabrina as teachers, or other famous Los Totis, or other famous dancers, Fabian Peralta, as teachers. And they started to pioneer just 1 hour of the city center to the south, in the outskirts of Buenos Aires, which is very special because it's pioneering in your own, in La Cuna del Tango, in the nest of tango, where actually tango is.
Yeah, the cradle.
The cradle, and the periphery. The periphery lost a little bit the touch of this culture, and they started to give classes there. Very interesting. I would recommend to go. And I've seen shows of students doing tango, and they're very good. And some of them, because of course, show tango is attractive, they start to compete in the campeonato.
Okay.
Yes, and there are many campeonatos. We have the famous campeonato, but every local district have their own campeonato, not related with the campeonato we know I think it's in August. So there are campeonato of only milonga, the rhythm, or waltz. There are campeonato for youngsters in between 20 and 35, 40, 30, young. And then you have the seniors, and so on and so on. Dancing, talk about dancing. Apart from that, I also learned you have karaoke bars in these cities with live music, not with tape, live music, where amateurs come to sing tango.
Oh, really? That's cool.
In competition, and sometimes open podium, and they are very good. They are incredible good. So you have this tango niche, which people who only dance tango, they go to Porteño Bailarín or Regine, which is called now El Beso, yes, or which was Cunning, but now it's Marabu. They don't know it, which is a pity, because it's a very interesting cultural movement, dynamic. So I'm glad that my niece and my nephew started to dance tango. And I think many more of my generation, or even younger, are interested in tango. And of course, if you ask why did it come like that? Why did it start? There are many reasons, and I think one of the reasons is the revival of tango, which started in Europe, instigated a little bit something in Buenos Aires, and then it came towards Europe and again back and go and you see that these professionals, they have this incredible life of touring from Beijing to New York to Paris to Berlin and so on, and to Dubai and Qatar and stuff like that, showing their creativity and their art, and young people get very interested in, again, to know their roots and maybe to do something like that, because it's like a football player. You are from a poor neighborhood. Let's do tango, be good, and then you can teach in Europe, maybe, or there in the neighborhood of Villa Fiorito or Avellaneda, of Remedios Escalada. You have very good places there and to dance tango.
But does that mean that tango has now also returned to the lowest classes of Argentina in some way? Because
No.
it sounds still like middle class.
It's
You're talking about.
It's a middle class.
Like I only really like imagine like the real like worker classes, or even like the poorer people from the slums, so to say.
Yeah.
I only really imagine them listening to cumbia or reggaeton or.
Yeah, that's the only thing they listen. Yeah.
But this was different back in the day. So even the poorest people of Buenos Aires, they were still dancing tango. I mean, not everyone, but.
And that time, the golden decade, the golden era, tango was their reggaeton.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are actually the dynamic motor of culture. They are not anymore this dynamic motor. Of course, there are exceptions, that somebody from the slums discovers tango in a club, football club, which sometimes they do tango now, or even the unions, not onions, unions.
Yes.
And I think, oh, yeah, nice to do. It's as an exception. It's not that his friends also do it, of her friends. No, it's just an exception.
Yes.
Yes, but so it's not an overall general culture of this class. This class has more feelings with reggaeton, cumbia, villeras, and in this, yes. So people who dance now tango are more lower class, higher class, and people who are somewhat more interested in the cultural roots. Yes, and it's a generational thing, because when your parents are lower class, but they work hard, you go to school, you have an open university, the UBA, it's called, Universidad Buenos Aires. Until now, it's, I think, free of charge. I don't know specifics about that. Until now, because there's a new government that wants to cut stuff, so that's a different topic. They study, and they have that their parents are living or lived in the slums, but you, because you studied, you have a better job, a better profession than your parents, so you skip a class. It can be in one generation, so like me, but it's only because I live in the Netherlands, which gave me more opportunities than I have in Argentina. Opportunities, yeah, because if I would stayed in Argentina, it's also possible that I would enroll to the UBA, the Universidad de Buenos Aires, easily. And it's just a very good university. But I came here, and here I got an opportunity to study different things, and I started to study journalism because I like history, and I was a little bit fed up to see one of the best papers of the Netherlands make don't have their facts covered enough in their articles. They mixed up years and names. Almost like especially about Latin America, it's difficult because it's a lot of history of a lot of countries. So I have a profession, and still I kept on dancing tango, and I'm now a professional tango dancer, which I don't regret because it's my passion. And also, the Netherlands gave me this opportunity to do something else than only a profession, to be an artist. There was space to be an artist there is still a space to be an artist in the Netherlands. Because remember, when there's a crisis like the Corona crisis, the first thing that's cut are the hobbies of people. And I'm very aware that I'm a hobby of many people. I'm a hobby. I give them a good time. They're happy. Felicidad, a lot of felicidad in their lives. But if you can't eat or don't have a roof above your head in a crisis, first thing you throw out is your hobbies. That's yes, that's what I noticed. So, but I'm very glad it's possible to do that in Europe. What I'm saying, only Netherlands, Europe has very good, strong movements of and a space to do something like that, dancing tango. And I think I already told you that I know people who drive 2 hours in the evening to go to a tango venue, 2 hours from here, and then in the night they drive 2 hours back.
Yeah, even 3 hours. That's what you
3 hours,
told me
yes.
privately. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I remember when my parents had their milongas in Amsterdam, people came from Ghent and from Brugge and from Brussels to dance in Amsterdam, and then drove back, or for a class. I noticed that people came when we were giving with Cosima classes in Amsterdam. They came from Rotterdam, even from Antwerp, only to take some classes with us in Amsterdam, and they drive back in the evening. That's in the night. It's crazy. In the midweek, not in the weekends.
Yeah, so they had to work next day. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they have their own teachers in Antwerp or something like that. So they don't do that. But it was rare. Maybe, I don't know, or they liked us very much. Now we can taking classes. It's an honor to have so dedicated students. It's time, it's money. Yes, when they come to us on the weekend, they trust us with their time and their money to do something like that. They could also stay home and watch Netflix. Yeah, our competition is Netflix yet, and Amazon and all the other streaming services. Yes, Corona gave it. They discovered, oh, I can look a movie at Netflix. I don't go dancing tango. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I think we covered everything that is relevant here
Yeah.
in this history lesson, so to say.
Yes.
But it was quite a dynamic story you told us because there's so many different facets in it that are like not just
Yeah.
from one time, but they're like to really talk about it, you constantly need to shift between different eras to in order to have it make
Yeah.
sense for someone who listens and doesn't know as much as you do about the topic. But I think it's also interesting that you have all these like links between different eras,
Yeah.
and also especially in your case your own family story and how it reflects this all these different movements in time,
Yeah.
all these different
Yeah.
developments, right? It's yeah.
Yeah, to incorporate the family story of tango to what happened literally in the history of tango in Argentina. It was, yeah, yes, I find it very interesting. Things that can change so quickly. What interests me more is that we live now, and time in tango goes very slow. But I had this thought also 15 years ago about that time in that now, and the same thing I was thinking, it goes very slowly. But if I look now to that same period, I see changes, but I only can notice it in an overview 15 years later. So people who experience tango or not tango, because the youngsters of the 60s, the hippies, didn't dance tango. They experience time and in that time differently, and also fugaz, it's called in Spanish. It goes very quick away. It's poof. So I get a little bit confused, but also very curious, and I find it very interesting to know about that. Yeah, uh, our perception of time fools us a little bit.
Yes.
It fools us. I know it from history. If you think about Cleopatra, our time until the time of in the history of the time of Cleopatra, it's like I think 2,000 years, more or less. Yes, those time is shorter than the time of Cleopatra and the pyramids. It's longer ago, but we in our time we try to summarize it because we can't comprehend it how long history is.
Yes.
Yes, so with tango also, because I'm talking now about the golden decade from until now, the history of tango before the golden decade was also very interesting, also special. And there are many myths and legends. And the tango of 1852, when tango was for the first time written in a newspaper about these strange gatherings of ex-slaves or slaves, where also white people came to dance in this religious rituals, which is called tango. Tango was, I think, called, means gathering. One of the sources say gathering of people. Until the time when it became famous in Europe, that time until the golden decade, that time until the revival, and from revival until now, there are many different aspects of tango and different history and different perceptions of a culture. We have to think about it that it's not it's an evolution, it's a dynamic mindset to think about tango, and also what people also forget is the influence of tango dancers in Europe and in the United States and in other places to the tango evolution in Buenos Aires. There is a connection. It's not a one-way highway. It's two different ways. It comes and goes, comes and goes. Very interesting. Very interesting. I know many teachers who dance tango and teach tango who went maybe one time in their life to Buenos Aires. That's it. That's it. And then they have their career here. It's incredible. It's not necessary.
Yes. Yeah.
Many aspects. You can differ about. You can think, oh, they don't go to Buenos Aires, so they are not genuine. I don't think so. They are genuine. They're very genuine. They dance. You can dance traditional neo milonguero and not go to Buenos Aires if you want.
Yes.
Not necessary. Yes, even music. You can go to. It depends on your talent, on your creativity, on your few. People have dance principles, which I notice. The principle of my dances, I have the liberty to do a gancho and a milonga. Everybody has their own dances, and I don't do gancho in milongas because I associated, maybe my upbringing with my parents, I associated with stage tango. So when I do it, when I perform, then it has a different function.
Yes.
Stuff like that. And everybody has their own potpourri, their own mix, their own thing of tango. I can't call it fusion, but it's more, big basket of candy, and you can take what you want.
So if I can summarize it perhaps in a way, like tango really disappeared from popular culture in many ways, and still, of course, it's kind of a niche thing, but it's also become this huge international phenomenon where globalization is just like maybe in the 50s or 60s, like rock and roll was just this one thing that dominated the world, and it came from America. But now you have all these different dances and music types from all the world going everywhere, and just everything is just influencing each other. And I like that a lot, because it goes to show, as you say, that what we're doing here will eventually also influence what's going on in Argentina in tango. And
probably.
It's very much a it's very much a living organism.
Yeah, that's true. I was once somebody who told me, I'm afraid it's going to go away. And I don't think so. It goes away when there is a big crisis, like this a pandemic or a war. But I don't think so. It's going to go away. It maybe changes a little bit, but not a lot. But the thing is, when you lead, I've noticed that other dances are copying this form of lead, where dances like kizomba.
Kizomba. Yeah, I was thinking about
other, but also the lead, West Coast swing. Instead of doing harsh things with your arms, using the ground of your body more, but also analyzing body awareness in movements, which you can make another interview about that. It's very interesting, because I noticed that there are some in-depth leading and following where what you can't teach that. It is so subtle, so strange. Also, teaching about musicality is so rich and so different. than other music and dances. And maybe I'm overstepping a little bit because I don't know the other dancers. And maybe somebody else can say, no, Mariano, in this dance we have this very special thing. Well, okay, but I know from the dances I did, and I did from salsa, rock and roll, and Lindy Hop, I know tango is so subtle and so special uh, that that you have to be very, very sensitive to lead and to follow. And the role of the follower is still um, uh, people don't find it important enough, even among the followers. I think you did a double role interview with some of your guests. It's so special to put your own feeling as a follower, but also special to receive it as a leader and do something with this. Everything is like a sort of invitation.
Yes, when, for example, a woman is really, really good at following and really has a lot of experience, but also a certain degree of being sensitive,
Yeah,
like it can really become an interaction. I'm just talking about women here because there's just not that many men doing this. Um, but I love it when I dance with certain women. I just feel like they're
yeah,
really giving me a lot, even though I'm leading.
yes. That's true. That I have that too, and I'm convinced you can teach this sensitive awareness to leader and followers. It's possible for and it's different. It's different for a leader than for a follower. For a follower, it's more to try to be aware that you can invite the leader for a mood, and at the moment he catches your mood and goes with it, you can make your own dance, which is very special. It's not just that you can, well, it is possible to, it's not to lead, but to invite something you want to do to lead him. So you're a follower and you want to do something, but you invite him to lead this moment in the dance so you can do something because you know the music, some special moment in the music comes and you want to put the feeling in that, but you're not in this step, but you invite him to do this step so that you can do. Yes, it's very special.
Yes.
I've never seen it in another dance before, or I've never felt it. And of course, I don't dance every dance, but until now, not in Lindy Hop, not in rock and roll, not in salsa, bachata, no, no. It's a very difficult dance, but
Yes.
it's very, very interesting. So
Yes.
I'm learning now. I'm learning in everything how in the dance. Still, I'm learning. I
Yeah, it's
uh,
an incredible depth.
I went yesterday to dance in a milonga here nearby, and I learned again. I learned so okay. Um, this leading has this result, different than I thought, and it changed the dance because changed this moment in the dance because and it fitted because my follower thought it was appropriate to do. She didn't change the step; she just changed the mood.
Yeah.
That's, that's so very interesting. Yeah, nice to discover. And you have to be in a good physical shape at that moment. I've gone to milongas and I was a little bit tired, and I noticed that my awareness is not 100%. And other times I was completely fit and I had a good time, and then I feel that my awareness is a bit bigger. So this is also the moment. Yeah,
Yes.
interesting. Eh?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for all your input today. And what I always love about, for example, you're not just a guy who knows a lot about history, but you're also a teacher. And I always love that there's always so much thought going on in the minds of these teachers. And
mm-hmm.
I don't always know how to like get it out of their mind, so to say, but then sometimes indirectly they just start talking about things, and then I just find these new perspectives.
Yeah.
It's so much. You have to, I suppose, as a teacher, you have to do so much. Like yeah. There's so much deliberation about what tango is actually about and how to
Yeah.
bring the message across to students. And,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. So
Yeah. That's what we do with my partner, with my wife. I always talk about tango. Always. All
yes,
the time.
yes.
Yes.
So
About every aspect, music, dance,
okay,
uh, personal preferences, feelings, awareness, and stuff like that. All the time.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this interview, and I hope
Yes.
to speak to you again soon.
Yeah. See you in Milonga somewhere.
Yes,
Yes. Where you, I will look where you are DJing somewhere. Yes. Mostly Harlem and Amsterdam, I think. Oh,
yeah, mostly Amsterdam and Leiden sometimes. So
oh
it's
Leiden
quite
also.
far away from you, but who
Yeah,
knows if you visit Amsterdam
I
once?
have family
Yeah.
in
Yes,
Amsterdam. Yes, yes.
yes. I'll be sure to invite you sometime
Cool. I will
to
let you know.
yeah, yeah. So thanks, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you very much. You too. It was an honor.